what to do when you or your child gets sick. As we go back into the school season, your child's going to be exposed to a cesspool of new bacteria, new viruses, mold. They have, a possibility of even being exposed to mold. So we want to teach you some things, tips and tricks on how to prevent this from happening, most importantly, and then also how to deal with the child when they have symptoms. Okay, we don't like to call it sickness. We call it expressing symptoms of health.
Yeah, this is when I see most of our families struggling to maintain their health and to get it back or keep it. Kids constantly coming in here with runny noses or just chronically fatigued, not able to concentrate in school. So this information that we're about to go through is not solely for when you're sick. This is going to help you really thrive throughout the school year, thrive throughout your parenting experiences, and even if you're a single person, going back into the workplace because you're sharing space with people that are having kids that, it's just a big, huge roller coaster of stuff that happens. So
now we're going to talk about supplements, and I don't want to confuse people. We're not talking about a cure, okay? We're talking about things that are aiding your body in fighting the disease itself. So unlike taking a Tylenol to cure a migraine, right? We're going to talk about things like vitamin D, but that helps your body synthesize the stuff that it needs to help your body fight off the virus or bacteria that's trying to hurt you. Okay, so again, anything we talk about today is not a quote-unquote cure. Again, it's consistency with this stuff that helps your body function and heal itself on its own. Okay, we're also going to talk about chiropractic, and before we go through any of this stuff, I want you to understand that without your body's functioning at 100%, then none of the things that we talk about today work right. So again, if your brain can't communicate to the bodies, the cells, tissues, and organ of your body, then you can't function correctly. Your immune system, which helps you fight off sickness and disease and virus and bacteria, is controlled by your nervous system. So again, this nervous system of ours, it's neglected, but it's the number one thing that we need to be healthy. And we're going to go through that at the end. So let's go through some things that cause disease and what do people do. So if most children get sick here in America, what do people run to first without knowing the stuff that we're going to talk about today, Dr.
Yeah, so I was thinking about when we were growing up and what mom and dad used to do for us and just kind of how we're helping patients transition into. But, what worries me a lot is hearing from patients, hearing from friends, and hearing just from people in the community is I had to take my child to the emergency room or I had to take my child to the doctor this weekend. And my first question is why do that, that is so far removed from the first thing that I would think of to do. So what that tells me is that we have a lack of faith in our body's ability to heal, which was what we're going to really dive into, that your body can heal. And that's something that you may need to just anchor into first of all. But really, when someone gets sick, the first thing that people do is they run to the thermometer. Mm-hmm. They want to check to see what your temperature is. And I remember when we were a kid, we really didn't have a thermometer. I think mom and dad had that to check and see really if we weren't faking it or not.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And if we did have a fever, actually, because I used to try to pretend to get out of it. When you're not sick, you come up with ways to skip school and get out of it. But so that's one thing is that we have the thermometers and we check that, and then we religiously look at that, and if it gets to a certain number or if it's too high or if it's creeping, then this fear starts developing deep down inside, and it's a rightful fear because it's your child. I can't imagine watching my child go through some of these illnesses that patients have to see. So the next thing that they do is they run to the NyQuil or the other cough medicines or let you sleep stuff or make you feel better things or the Tylenol. And I've been doing some research on how bad Tylenol actually is for you. And so we'll dive into that. And then the next thing they do is they go to the doctor's office, which they give you an antibiotic and they give you all kinds of other stuff, which it ultimately is suppressing the immune system, suppressing their body's ability to actually fight the disease. So that's what...
Symptoms, guys, and I don't want to take this away from anybody, symptoms are scary. Especially when you're dealing with a 1-year-old child with croup, right? This barking cough that, seems like to never go away, and they turn purple and blue, and I don't have children, but that would scare the what out of me. And the first thing that I would think about was wondering why this is happening. But we have to understand that God has given us an immune system, and these symptoms that we have, whether it's a rash, whether it's a cough, whether it's diarrhea, whether it's vomiting, are all designed to support you. You know, it may seem against the grain of what we learned, but again, all of those things, the diarrhea is getting something out, it's flushing your system out, right? The vomiting is getting something out, it's flushing your system out. The heat from a fever is actually doing a lot of different things, which we'll cover in a second, but suppressing that is going against the design. You know, so again, all these symptoms, like I had an illness last week, and I had coughing, and I had a fever, and I had all this stuff, but again, my body was doing exactly what it needed to do to get rid of it, and I was rid of it within a day. I still had some residual sinus issues and things, but again, I didn't run to the NyQuil or Dayquil or whatever quill people take. I didn't run to the Tylenol. I didn't run to the doctor, because I know, and this is what we teach our patients, that the best doctor lives right inside of you. So rather than running to chemicals, understand that the best chemicals are from within. And again, we're going to help you understand and help you apply these things to your life so you can start to create these chemicals from within and prevent disease from happening with you and your children.
Yeah, you said something pretty profound the day after you came back from your little episode, and it was, if I hadn't known these principles, I would have run straight to the doctor. And I think that, you know, we're not sitting here saying that you're never going to have symptoms, you're never going to be ill, you're never going to go through these things. What we're saying is that you're going to get through it, and it's going to suck. I mean, you were miserable, and it is what it is. But you've got to let your body go through it, because now, are you weaker or stronger?
Right. My immune system created antibodies to this whatever it was that caused this problem, and now I won't get it again. Rather than running to an antibiotic and all these other chemicals and drugs to put into my system to stop whatever's happening. Again, that just weakens my immune system, and I'm more susceptible not to just that virus, but even to things like cancer later on, because I have such a weak immune system. They say that if you've taken over 4 rounds of antibiotics in a lifetime, it doubles your chances of getting cancer, because you have such a weak immune system. So again, we have to understand that this process that we call health is evolving. And your immune system, since birth, is evolving over time. That's why kids get sick more than adults, because again, they're exposed to different toxins and their body has to go through the process. And again, it's all within the design. We're supposed to be going through these things. And again, we're not supposed to be suppressing these things with chemicals.
You know, I told somebody last night what we were talking about, and I said, the title is "What to Do When You or Your Child Get Sick," and they said, well, what do you do if you don't get sick? And I paused for a second, and I said, well, you do the same thing. It's the same exact thing. So when we talk about setting a foundation, I have this card here that we've taught our patients in the past, and it says to remove the rats or clean out the trash. I don't know if you can kind of zoom in on this here, but it's just showing the matter of fact that, you know, there's a trash bin here with all kinds of stuff, and there's rats, and there's people or animals just coming after it. And, you know, we can go in there, we can remove the rats, we can remove the tumors, we can remove the viruses, we can remove all this stuff. But really, the better option would be to actually just empty out the trash and start fresh and start clean. And that's where, you know, getting adjusted comes into play. That's where proper nutrients, that's where exercise, that's where all these 5 essentials come from that we teach, is not just removing the bad stuff, but taking the trash out and cleaning out your system. So yeah. I think that's a great
and that's a completely different mindset than going and, you know, we talk about ear infections with kids. That's an illness, right? So people that get these tubes placed in the ear, that's really not dealing with the quote-unquote rats or the problem that's within. It's just putting a mask on the cause. Does that make sense? So rather than doing that, we have to figure out what's causing these recurrent ear infections and remove the cause. And that's what this office is all about, is helping you understand that there's a cause to these things, and it's not lack of tubes. You were born with the necessary tubes in your ears to make that happen. Why aren't they working correctly? Let's get to that cause.
So let's dive in.
Yep.
Want to?
So what to do when you and your child get sick? You know, vitamin D is huge, and it's especially living in the Midwest here in Chicagoland. It's great right now. It's about 85 degrees. I've got a good tan going. I love outside. I've been a swimmer the majority of my life. We've been in water. We grew up with pools, and vitamin D has been a big part of our life. But when we moved back here from Florida, we weren't used to the negative 10-degree weather and no swimming pools and all of that. And the more important thing is that the sun went away for about 5 months. and we didn't have the vitamin D exposure. And really, vitamin D isn't a vitamin. Okay, it's cholesterol. It's a reaction from cholecalciferol in the body that's dependent on UV radiation. So the correct type of UV radiation will help your body synthesize cholesterol. Now, during the winter months, if you're not getting enough sun, what is enough sun? Well, it's 20 minutes in the sun exposure of half of your body being exposed for 20 minutes. Now, nobody's doing that in Chicago in January, I guarantee it. If you are,
there might be somebody.
there's something wrong. So we do have a supplement here, vitamin D3 with probiotics. Dr. Kalie's going to go over the importance of probiotics so it's absorbed correctly into the body. But again, most people, and the recommendations I think is about 500 IUs per day of vitamin D3. Ours is 5,000 IUs per day. And during the winter months, we want to take 2 of those to get up to 10,000 IUs per day. And that's going to help your body fight off not just virus or bacteria, but it gets all the way up to, and there's a graph we teach our people all the time, our tribe all the time, that it gets up to all the way up to breast cancer and colon cancer and helps you fight things like that. So vitamin D is huge. And again, if you're constantly getting sick in the winter months, it's probably due to something like that, lack of vitamin D, quote unquote, ultraviolet exposure to the skin. Now, another thing, if you are from an African American descent or have darker skin, you're going to want to take vitamin D even in the summer months, because the black skin prevents the UV from penetrating and getting into the cholesterol and creating the reaction needed to create the vitamin D. I know it sounds weird. Even with my darker skin right now, I'm getting less UV light because of the brownness that's there that's blocking it to getting into the actual, like I said, cholecalciferol that reacts with cholesterol that creates vitamin D.
You know, I've done some research on vitamin D too, and they say how you can lay out all day long, and if you lay there, and it takes up to 24 to 48 hours to actually absorb the vitamin D. So usually when you're out and you are in the sun, what's the next thing that you do? You go and take a shower. So what happens is that you literally wash off all the vitamin D that you could possibly absorb. And so all of your hard work of laying out is pretty much washed away. So that's why we even say to do this in the summer months as well.
And also when we look at things like skin cancer, first of all, the vitamin or the sunblocks that people put on, and this isn't what we're talking about today, but it blocks the sun from getting in. So it blocks the UV light. So actually it causes more cancer than it prevents. And also the toxic stuff that's in there, especially if it's a sunblock that you can't wipe off or it doesn't come off in the water. What's it called? Waterproof sunblock. It's got a lot of chemicals that keeps it on your skin, and it's just not a good idea to put that stuff on. And there's natural stuff that we talk about during the summer months as well. So probiotics.
So probiotics, you know, when we talk about an illness or, you know, a lot of times people are getting these antibiotics when they're children, when they're infants, when you're adults, and you know, it piles up on each other each and every time you do that. And so what it's doing is it's antibiotic, so it's killing all the bacteria in your stomach. The good stuff and the bad stuff. Yes, there is good bacteria in your stomach. And what that does is it helps break down the food that you're eating. It helps break down any invaders that are coming into you to try to make you sick. And the antibiotics wipe all that away. And so what you need to do is, instead of going to get an antibiotic, you need to start taking prebiotics and probiotics to help refill the good flora into your gut. Because we also know that there's about 70 to 85% of your immune system that's living inside of your gut. So gut health is extremely important. I also recommend even looking into enzymes if you have gut issues, because we really want to make sure that the gut is healing. And enzymes are what's really going to break that stuff down. The more cooked foods that you eat in your lifetime, the less amount of enzymes that you're going to have, because it needs more, your body needs more enzymes to break it down. And you've only got a certain number of enzymes that you can actually produce over your lifetime. So that's it.
It's always a good idea to eat food as close to the natural source as possible. So that's a stark difference from opening up a box and scarfing down stuff that's been there for 2 months. So yeah, probiotics are huge. If your digestive tract is off, they say that well, they know that, they don't say that, they know that your brain and your stomach has the same tissue when you're growing in the womb, and it separates. So your brain, your gut and your brain are highly conducive to each other. They're correlated with each other, and if this is messed up, so is this. So that's why we love the ketogenic lifestyle, because it helps clean out everything, and it helps your brain functioning, it helps your gut functioning. Ketogenic diet coupled with intermittent fasting is just a 1-2 punch, and I've never had so much energy in my entire life. And I've been a pretty good, quote unquote, eater my entire life as well. So the next, I think this is one of the most important things, because this is where all the healing happens, is when you're sleeping. And when I first started practicing, there was this mantra out there that the less sleep that you got, the better off you were, because that means that you're producing more. And that's just so far from the truth, right? 8 hours of sleep, or even sometimes I like getting 9 hours of sleep, is what is sufficient for the majority of people out there. So anything less than 7 hours, you're doing your body a very bad disservice. And it's not just the amount of sleep that you're getting, it's the quality of sleep that you're getting. So you want to really create your bedroom into a sanctuary. And again, we spend 30, 40, 50, 60, $70,000 on our cars, and we don't want to spend anything on a bed. We spend 8 hours a night in our bed. We spend way more time in our cars. So again, you should be investing into the types of things like beds that will help you and support you throughout your day. The interruptions during sleep. You shouldn't have pets in your bed. Now, I have 2 Dobermans, and I let them in sometimes, but not all night. So at the end of the night, in the morning, we do our little whatever, and then they go back to their bed. At nighttime when I'm going to sleep, they're never sleeping on bed, because that causes interruptions throughout the night, and it causes us to wake up. Even if you don't wake up fully, you're not going into the deep REM sleep that you need. And that's really what we want to get to, is the deep REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. That gets you into the theta waves and gets your brain compiling memories throughout the day, and just helps your neurons continue to build themselves and regenerate. It's been said that lately, when I went to school, neuroplasticity was just coming out, but they thought before that your brain, when you're born with the brain that you have, that's all you get. But now we know that they regenerate themselves. And again, that only happens during the sleeping process. So if you're not getting enough sleep, if you have light in your bedroom as well, that's horrible for your brain, because again, your body responds. Even though your eyes are shut, your skin has receptors on it telling you, hey, the sun's down or the sun is up, it's time to wake up. So again, you want 0 light in your bedroom, okay? Like I said on last week's 5 Essential Friday, you don't even want on your alarm clock that red lettering that's on there that I grew up with. You want to put a piece of tape over it. I have an Apple iWatch that I use as my alarm clock. It only turns on when I wave my hand in front of it, and at 5 o'clock in the morning when I want to wake up. You also, the temperature in your bedroom is very important. You want to bring it down to 69 degrees or right around there, 68, 71. So right around 69 degrees is the optimal temperature. The colder, the better. I love being freezing cold and bundled up in bed. Also the types of mattresses, if they're toxic, you got to make sure that you're getting the natural organic mattresses to help your body function better, and you're not absorbing those toxins throughout the night. Anything to add with sleep?
Yeah, I was just thinking about this. Like you said that you sleep 7 to 9 hours a night, but that's not meaning that he's sleeping in until 11 o'clock in the afternoon, right? So you've got to be really respectful of your sleep and your time and your patterns. So you set a time that you're going to go to bed, you set a time that you're going to get up, and that's your set time. When you can get into a rhythmic state, that's the best that your body can do. And then I think you mentioned last week on 5 Essential Fridays to get rid of the screens, so no TV, no phones, no iPads, at least an hour before you go to bed. So shutting off the blue screens and getting rid of that. So
here, throw those glasses to me real quick. Luke has these glasses, they're blue light blocker sunglasses. They used to have blue blocker sunglasses. Now there's like blue lights. I was saying that last week, but yeah, you wear these things and it blocks the blue light that keeps you up at night. So if you have to, and what I say have to be on a screen before you go to bed, you got to make sure that you're blocking this blue light. And also, don't answer your phone. So it's a good practice. I've been doing it for a year now. My phone isn't even in my bedroom. Let's take these off. Probably it's funny there, but my phone isn't in my bedroom because, again, subconsciously, and I've listened to podcasts and read some research on it, that your brain is always calling for that phone. Even if it's on, like if you're at dinner and it's on the table, it changes the conversation because you're always worried about what's happening on your phone, especially for me. Like for me now, my practice is keep it away because, again, I'm not focused on the people that are in front of me. So again, checking email at night, getting your cortisol raised if something went wrong. Again, you just want to guard your space an hour or two before bed and even an hour after you wake up. So for me, those two are non-negotiable for me.
That's good. That's
cool.
So we're going to talk about fever now. So fever, I was doing some research on Tylenol here, and I just want to give you guys some insight to what this is. So Tylenol is something that's very, very normal for people to, I guess common, not normal. It's very common for a mom and a dad or anybody to reach for that when they have a fever. Well, I had to give my child Tylenol. Well, did you have to? I think we need to start really redefining the have-tos in our lives and figure out what that is, because there's actually this acetaminophen, which is known as Tylenol, and there's a couple other names, is linked to more deaths per year than any other over-the-counter pain relievers ever. And then we go into just some stats. Acetaminophen overdose is actually the leading cause for calls to the poison control centers across the U.S. There's 100,000 instances per year. There's 56,000 emergency room visits caused by acetaminophen, 2,600 hospitalizations, and then 458 deaths due to liver failure because of this. And then it's even linking when you're taking Tylenol or acetaminophen while you're pregnant, that your child has a higher percentage risk of developing ADD, ADHD, and even linking that to autism as well. The brain development is messed up. It's a hormone disruptor, so it does a major influence on the fetal brain development. What are some other things? Oh, the difference between a dose and an overdose is a very, very fine line, which is why it's so common for people to be going to the emergency rooms because of overdoses. Even when you're giving your infant, the child, Tylenol and not understanding that that's too much for them, you know, it's affecting their liver, it's affecting their brain, it's affecting their gut, it's affecting their neurology system. You know, and then what it does is really it's suppressing the immune system. So the immune system by suppressing the fever. So you want to get that fever down, which again goes back to the thermometer conversation. Throw the thermometers out unless you want to just see if they actually are, you know, having a fever. But the Tylenol is dropping the fever, which is the fever is what's designed to actually go and fight. Like that's the burning fire to go and kill whatever's coming after you. And when you suppress that, it's extending the longevity of your ability to spread this. So the spreadability of this, whatever you have going on, because your body can't fight it as fast and as quick. You know, we always say to actually spike the fever a little bit more. I always tell my patients to put their kid in the bath, put some lemon slices in there, because that's going to help spike the fever, which is going to help burn it out faster. We're not decreasing the fever in that sense. So do you want to just kind of jump in there?
Lemon slices and Epsom salts. Why? Because it helps detox you as well. So not only is the fever killing the virus, but it's helping you produce certain things. I'm not going to go through the science behind that because we'll be here all day. But only certain things are produced when your fever spikes, and those things help your immune system create more killer cells. So again, unless the fever gets to a certain point, those cells aren't created, and those like attack mechanisms, like she said, aren't ever produced, and your fever lasts for a longer period of time. Your sickness lasts for a longer period of time. Again, the fever's not the problem. It's the virus or bacteria that's inside of you that your body's trying to fight that's the problem. So don't look at the fever as the bad guy. It's actually trying to help you, believe it or not. So for me, last week, I got a fever. I couldn't lift my head. Also, your body shuts down. Why does it shut down? Because it has to go into overdrive in creating these new cells to get those viruses and bacteria at bay, to hold them at bay before they start to take over your entire body. And even things like rash, like chicken pox, those little pox that come out, that's a good thing because it's getting the virus out of the body, right? So measles, it's getting the virus out of the body. Mumps, same thing. these things don't kill people normally, naturally, right? It's less than 1%. But again, your body has a design, and again, we're going against the design by suppressing these things. The fever is actually a good thing. So for me, I like to wrap up in a blanket, or get into the infrared sauna, get my fever spiked even more. You're not going to feel good after that. I'm going to tell you that right now, okay? Sometimes you feel really bad, but when you go to sleep, sometimes you wake up and you feel amazing.
That's good.
Good.
Good stuff.
So mucus.
Mucus. I mean, who doesn't love mucus?
Who doesn't want to talk about phlegm?
James is like, you're gonna talk about mucus,
Yeah.
and I was like,
Goody.
goody gumdrops. I can't wait. You know, again, just like fever, mucus is also a good thing, because what's that doing? It's your body again going into a fight or flight mode, and it's trying to collaborate all these things to get whatever is in there and get it out. You know, let the body run its course and do what it needs to do. You know, don't try to. What do you do for mucus, like normal people?
Sudafed, would that be something? Yeah.
So Sudafed, you talked about Sudafed last night. So talk about what Sudafed is.
So
actually.
there's a reason we can't buy Sudafed in bulk. Like if someone goes to CNS or CVS,
You can tell we don't go
CVS.
to these places very often.
Yeah, we don't frequent these. We don't even have a medicine cabinet at home. But if you go there and try to buy over a certain amount, they don't give you those things, because you can go home and cook it in your basement and it turns into crystal meth. So again, why would you take this stuff if it's so chemically altered? Just a little bit of alteration of that chemical causes you to get high. You know, same thing with NyQuil. I know people taking NyQuil for these colds and cough and all this stuff just to go to sleep. They have to, and now they're addicted to the NyQuil. There's alcoholics that drink that stuff because there's alcohol in NyQuil as well. So again, chemicals, you know, and I've said this before on these talks, but you know, we're a society full of chemicals, and these chemicals that we ingest, the chemicals that we breathe, the chemicals that we are just exposed to every day, right, in our cars, in our houses, in our carpets, on our hair products, all this stuff that we do and consume, those chemicals cause problems, right? And then we run to the pharmacist and try to get more chemicals to fix the problems that the chemicals that we've ingested and consumed created. And again, that's just going to create more problems down the road, and it's not fixing anything. It's, you know, and we talked about it last night. You know, chemicals come from the pharmacy, and you look up the root. I'm not going to go through it right now. Look up the root word pharmacy. It comes from pharmakia. You can do your own research on that and see what it comes up with.
So what do I do when I have mucus, or you know, allergies or asthma or whatnot? You know, at some level you do, to be able to function, have to kind of break it up a little bit. So you know, I'm a huge fan of. We're going to go into the adjustment part of it later, next-ish. But I'm a huge fan of essential oils. You know, that's my medicine cabinet. Is I'm putting some different oils on my chest to let my lungs breathe easier, breathe better, to break up the mucus inside of there, to help my body along. And those are the medicines really that God gave us to heal. You know, it's coming. All the essential oils are coming from plants, as long as you're getting the stuff that's pure and it's not coming from synthetic producers and they don't have all this stuff in there. So you've got to be wary about that. If you have questions about that, ask us. But I'm putting that stuff on my chest. I'm putting it on the bottom of my feet, and it hits every cell within seconds. You know, our body's powerful, and we just got to give it the tools to manifest through these
But again,
illnesses.
she's not taking this to heal this.
No.
She's taking this to help the body heal this, right? We don't add or subtract anything in chiropractic. We don't diagnose. We don't. Well, we do diagnose, but we don't give you medication to suppress the symptom that you're having. So again, we're not taking allopathically substances to heal us. We're taking substances to help our body function better so it can go back to work. And it's just allowing the body to work better at its optimal level. So again, remember that the structure of your body, we'll go through that in a second, determines how you function. So cough is the same thing. You know, cough is a good thing. It's getting it out. It's a defense mechanism. So for me, again, I've had this stuff created, mucus, cough, right? They go hand in hand. And in the morning, I would hack my lungs out and get this stuff out. It's nasty, but it happens, right? And I had sinus drainage, and for one day, last Tuesday actually, all this stuff came out of my sinuses. It looked like I had like a mucus factory, right? Right before tea time came out. And I'm like, I think I just lost 90% of my brains when that came out. But again, that took the virus out of my sinuses, and then after that, I've been fine. So again, that's a good thing. The body was getting it out. And again, that's the message today, is that symptom, the mucus, the cough, the fever, the diarrhea, the whatever it is, they're good.
Yeah, you know, I think our main theme all the way through this whole thing is just to be honoring our bodies and honor our symptoms that our body gives us. Our body gives us symptoms for a purpose, and it's not to be covered up, right? So many medications and so many things want to cover things up and want to have a quick fix, and the reality is I want to like magnify that a little bit. Like I want to sit in that and marinate, because my body's going to town and it's working and it's doing what it needs to do. I've been created and designed to heal on my own. But sometimes there's interferences, and we have to really look at the interferences and what that means, because we know that God gave us an amazing healing potential. And that potential is there every single second of every single day. And the matter of the fact is there interference getting to from the brain to the rest of the body to allow it to heal? And that's really what we have to focus on. So we're talking about this last, but this should be the very first thing that you go into, because this, if you don't anchor into anything else that we've talked about today, if you just anchor into this one thing and you use this principle that we're about to go into as like a lifeline and something that you just live by, and you really start to get the big idea, as Dr. B.J. Palmer would always say, get the big idea, all else follows. So do you want to kind of dive into that?
Yeah, so behind us here it says expect miracles, a big picture of the spine. And the miracle doesn't come from the spine, the miracle comes from within the spine, in the core, in the center, and that's where all function stems from. And ultimately your function stems from the brain, and it's sent down the spinal cord out through the nerves into your organs. So again, the spine contains that nervous system and it protects it. And if the bones are in alignment and there's no movement of the bone outside of the normal position, remember there's 24 vertebrae that are protecting your spinal cord. If the bone shifts because of trauma, birthing process, football, or just on a computer all day long, if the bone shifts out of alignment and pushes on your nervous system, it's depleting function into the cells, tissues, and organs that nervous system supplies with life. So again, if that stays there, it weakens your body, it weakens your immune system, it weakens your circulatory system, it weakens your digestive system. Everything is thrown off, especially, and this is where kids have most of their problems here, is at the top. And it's called your atlas. Right where the brain meets the spinal cord. We've called it before the hole that God speaks through, because again, that's where the brain connects to the spinal cord, right? Right at the brain stem. And if that bone, the atlas, shifts just a little bit out of alignment, it causes pressure on the brain stem. And that's depleting all function to the body. And that causes a multiple plethora of different symptoms in your kid, whether it's ear infections, whether it's chronic cough, whether it's asthma or allergies, whether it's digestive issues. It all can stem from right here. How does this get ruined or misaligned?
Yeah, you know, from the birthing process, from sleeping, from doing their homework, from sitting at a desk all day long, from carrying backpacks. I mean, that's just the first half of your child's day right there.
I can remember when she was about 6 and I was about 10. We saw this thing in the movie where she put her hands through the legs and I lifted her up like this and she smacked her head right on the floor. And you're going to tell me after that, right? She had some brain injuries. She still might have some issues because of that.
He threw me into a TV wall unit, not to the floor.
And I fell into the wall. Like, it was crazy.
And it was my fault.
The loudest, like, thump I've ever heard in my life. And yeah, her head was damaged, but also, like, what happened to her cervical spine? And if we weren't getting chiropractic care at that time, what could she be experiencing right now as far as her symptoms are concerned, right? If that atlas shifted out of alignment, she probably would have headaches or whatever it is right now. And again, we went right to the chiropractor. We took the pressure off the nervous system to allow our body to function better again. And kids are kids. You know, you've got 2-year-olds that are coming down the stairs on their butt and bump, 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 bump all the way down. You got 1-year-olds that are starting to walk, and how many times do they fall? Even 1-day-old, they're just born, right? They go through that traumatic process. If you've ever seen it before, it's traumatic and everybody goes through it. And they've said recently, and I've seen on our wall here, we put it up there, that 95%, and I believe it's 100%, but 95% we've studied and proven, 95% of all infants have some sort of misalignment in their skeletal system.
Yeah, you know, I'm thinking about like patients and parents and kids, And this goes for a child all the way through to elderly, right? In first instinct is I'm sick, so I'm gonna cancel my appointment.
Mhm.
I don't want to come in and get adjusted. You know, we always say that if you're puking, bring a bucket. If you're
Have
have
diarrhea,
diarrhea,
wear a
wear a diaper. We'll take care of you. We'll get you in. We'll get you out. We'll get you adjusted, because we know that precious nervous system that you are carrying around, if that has interference on it, then your body is never going to be able to get through that at 100%. You know, when James or I have symptoms, we're over at each other's houses and adjusting. If a staff member gets sick, their first requirement is to come into the office, get adjusted, and then they can go home.
Yeah.
But if they don't come in and get adjusted, they don't get the day off.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just because we want to make sure that our family is healing and functioning properly. So if your first inclination is to maybe cancel an appointment if you're a patient, or not go to the chiropractor or whatever, you know, what you should actually be doing is setting up an extra adjustment, maybe twice in that day, you know, the whole entire week, whatever it is that fits your schedule. You can talk with your doctor if you're not our patients.
And even right now, when kids are exposed to all these new viruses and bacteria in the cesspool called school, they should be getting extra adjustments. So if your visit is once a week or twice a month, you should be adding 1 or 2 visits per week for them to just make sure that their immune system is functioning correctly.
You know, we talk about flu season, and it's around the holidays. It's around right when kids start going back to school. So that's when the most amount of stress we have on our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
It's the least amount of sleep and the worry that goes through it. And we're traveling, and we're with people in these closed off buildings, recycled air. So it's not necessarily flu season, because the flu, you know, there's thousands upon thousands of strands of the flu multiplying every single day. We didn't really get into the flu shot, but maybe we can do that at another time, because we're running short on time here. But you know, the flu shot, they're taking the strand that was attacking people from last year or the year before and putting that into the flu shot. And they know now that if you've gotten your flu shot 5 consecutive years, that you have a much higher, I think it's like 85% chance higher rate of Alzheimer's, because of the mercury that gets up into the blood-brain barrier and gets into your system. The mercury, the formaldehyde that's in there, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. That's a great segue into next week's show. I think we're just going to go over the flu shot and the ingredients, because again, you're going to see your CVS and your Walgreens and all of these things trying to propaganda you into going in there and getting injected with this stuff. So we have to really prepare you with the information so you can make an educated decision on what you're doing with you and your kids.
Hey guys, to wrap this up, I just want to make some announcements. I hope you saw our awesome picture that we had. We are getting approved for iTunes. So if you're listening on iTunes now, we just want to ask that you rate and review us, give us a thumbs up. If you're watching us on Facebook right now, please like and share this and help get the word out. We're going to have this on iTunes, I think, as early as next week, maybe.
Pretty soon. It's coming up.
So
So
the
all
next
the
couple
previous
weeks.
episodes that we've done as well. So we've done 5 now, plus 5 Essential Fridays, 4 of them. They're all going to be available. You can download it onto your podcast app and listen to it in your car. And that's what I do all the time. If I'm at the gym, I'm listening to a podcast and just absorbing this information so it can become part of my life. So that's why we're doing this for you guys, so you can understand it and most importantly, apply it.
Yeah, that's it. We just wanted
Cheers.
to be with you and your family. So
Tea time
happy
out,
tea time.
and we'll see you next week. Our topic is the flu season and the flu shot. So thanks a lot, guys. Have a great week.